Tenshura X Wednesday by Rimuchi. Thing and game of cat and mouse beginning to take shape. Rimuru Nightshade followed Wednesday Addams through the dimly lit halls of Nevermore Academy, his steps eerily silent, his presence almost spectral. She didn't acknowledge him, nor did she seem to care that he was tailing her. That intrigued him. Most people either shrank away from him or desperately sought his attention. Wednesday, however, did neither. Inside Rimuru's mind, a voice echoed, calm, analytical, yet carrying a faint hint of curiosity. Less than Master, may I inquire why you are following Wednesday Addams? Greater than. Rimuru smirked slightly. Isn't it obvious, Raphael? I'm interested in her. Less than interest detected. Would you like me to analyze her behavioral patterns for further understanding? Greater than. His smile widened, sharp as a knife. No, I prefer to figure things out myself. Less than acknowledged. Processing preference saved. Greater than. Raphael functioned like an advanced AI, cold and calculating, yet over time, it had developed subtle traces of personality, perhaps a byproduct of spending centuries bound to him. It wasn't human, but it could almost pass for one. Wednesday suddenly stopped. Rimuru tilted his head. Why did she halt so abruptly? Before he could act, Raphael's voice returned, sharper this time. Less than warning. A gargoyle statue directly above Wednesday Addams is destabilizing. Unknown magnetic interference detected. Greater than. Rimuru's eyes flickered upward. The large stone gargoyle perched on the academy's rooftop was tilting, breaking free from its base, preparing to crash down right where Wednesday stood. He exhaled, barely impressed. Good job, Raphael. You're as helpful as always. Less than happy to assist, Master. Greater than. The entire exchange between him and Raphael lasted 2 seconds in real time. Wednesday turned, finally seeming to notice Rimuru's presence. Why are you? She never got to finish. Out of nowhere, Xavier Thorpe lunged toward her, pushing her forcefully out of the way just as the gargoyle came crashing down. Or rather, almost did. Rimuru snapped his fingers. Instantly, the stone froze midair, defying gravity. The massive gargoyle hovered ominously, as if reality itself had hesitated to let it fall. Xavier looked up, eyes wide in shock. His hands trembled as he turned to Rimuru. Did you just? Rimuru sighed, glancing at Wednesday, who now lay unconscious on the ground. His expression remained unreadable. Yes, I did. And now, a better question. He turned his crimson gaze toward Xavier, sharp and probing. What exactly is wrong with you? Xavier frowned. What do you mean? Rimuru raised a hand. Wednesday's limp body lifted into the air, floating effortlessly toward him. His voice remained cold, almost bored. I mean, why did you shove Wednesday like that? Surely you knew she wouldn't move on her own. Xavier opened his mouth, about to explain, but Rimuru cut him off. No, no, spare me whatever excuse you're about to spit out. It's irrelevant. He glanced at Wednesday's unconscious form. Let's just bring her to her room. Xavier hesitated. Wait, shouldn't we take her to the infirmary? Rimuru's eyes flickered with amusement. She's still alive. No internal bleeding. No serious fractures. So why waste the effort? Xavier didn't respond. Good, Rimuru said, already turning on his heel. That settles it. She's coming with me. Without waiting for an answer, he strode down the hall, Wednesday still floating behind him like a ghostly marionette. He didn't have to check to know Xavier had no choice but to follow. When they arrived at Rimuru's quarters, Xavier hesitated at the threshold. His expression shifted from confusion to outright shock. Rimuru's room was unlike anything else in Nevermore Academy. It was a twisted blend of gothic horror and eerie sophistication. The walls were painted a deep, blood-red hue, with intricate black carvings resembling crawling vines and thorns. A massive chandelier dangled from the high ceiling, its glass shards shaped like dripping icicles, casting an eerie glow that fluctuated between crimson and icy white. The furniture was sleek yet sinister, black leather chairs with sharp, angular frames, a desk carved from polished obsidian, and shelves stacked with ancient tomes, skulls, and artifacts that seemed to pulse with unknown energy. At the room's center was Rimuru's bed, a four-poster with heavy, shadowy curtains and blood-red sheets. The posts were carved into grotesque figures of creatures frozen in mid-scream, their agony immortalized in wood. Even the air itself felt unnaturally cold, as if darkness had claimed dominion here. Rimuru gestured lazily toward the bed, and Wednesday's body floated down gently onto the silk sheets. He then took a seat in one of the leather chairs, crossing his legs effortlessly. Take a seat, he told Xavier. Xavier, still unnerved, hesitated before obeying. He looked around once more. You live here alone? Rimuru nodded. Do I seem like the type who enjoys company? Xavier didn't argue. Silence stretched between them. Then Rimuru spoke, voice casual but pointed. So, what's the deal, boy? Xavier frowned. Deal. Rimuru tilted his head. How did you know that Gargoyle was about to fall? And why did you try to save Wednesday? Xavier hesitated, then muttered, I just noticed. Rimuru smirked, fangs glinting under the dim chandelier light. Is that so? Xavier sighed. And, I was returning a favor. That caught Rimuru's attention. Favor? Huh, interesting. They remained in the room, waiting. Xavier attempted to make conversation, but Rimuru shut him down with brief, dismissive answers. The vampire wasn't interested in small talk. After 30 minutes, a low groan filled the room. Wednesday stirred. Her dark eyes fluttered open, immediately scanning her surroundings. Rimuru leaned forward, resting his chin against his palm, voice smooth and teasing. Welcome back to the living, Wednesday Addams. She sat up slowly, eyes landing on both him and Xavier. What happened? Rimuru smirked. A gargoyle nearly crushed you. I stopped it. And, he paused dramatically. And, she pressed. He pointed lazily at Xavier. He pushed you, thinking it would save your life. Which it technically did, if you ignore the fact that I could have stopped it regardless. Wednesday turned to Xavier, narrowing her eyes. Why did you do that? Xavier exhaled. I was trying to save you. I didn't know he gestured toward Rimuru, could stop it. Normally, someone would say thank you, Xavier added. Wednesday crossed her arms. I don't want to be saved. I can take care of myself. Rimuru chuckled, low and smooth. Ah, but isn't that what makes you so delightful? His eyes gleamed mischievously. A damsel who refuses to be distressed. A creature of darkness wrapped in mortal form. Fascinating. She shot him a glare. You enjoy mocking me. He grinned, fangs sharp as ever. Immensely. She stood up, heading toward the door. But before leaving, she cast a glance around his room. I like your decor, she admitted. Rimuru smirked. I'll take that as high praise. She paused. Why are you being so considerate? Rimuru's smile deepened, eyes glowing faintly. Let's just say, I have an interest in the Addams family. She said nothing and left, closing the door behind her. Rimuru leaned back, exhaling. That Addams girl, endlessly intriguing. Xavier stood as well. Well, I'll head out too. After he left, Rimuru tapped his foot against the floor twice. A faceless, white-haired shadow slithered out from the darkness, claw. Keep an eye on her, Rimuru ordered. Something is going on, and I want to know what. Claw nodded and disappeared into the shadows. Rimuru leaned back, smirking. Wednesday Addams was a mystery, one he fully intended to solve. In Wednesday's room, the night settled over Nevermore Academy, casting long shadows across the Gothic architecture. Inside her dorm, Wednesday Addams sat hunched over her desk, the soft glow of her typewriter illuminating her pale face. The room was a stark contrast to her vibrant roommate's side. Wednesday's half was dark, minimalist, and almost oppressively morbid. Black drapes covered the windows, blocking out any intrusive light. The walls were adorned with eerie paintings and twisted sculptures, while her bed, neatly made with an iron frame, was covered in jet-black sheets. A taxidermy raven sat ominously on her nightstand, overseeing her work. The steady clacking of her typewriter filled the air as Wednesday continued her latest novel. Her fingers moved with precision, her mind weaving another tale of Gothic horror, murder, and poetic justice. Tap. She ignored it. Tap, tap. Her fingers paused over the keys. Then came the unmistakable sound of light tapping, not on the floor anymore, but on her bed. A slow, deliberate rhythm, as if something was crawling toward her. Wednesday's cold, calculating eyes flickered toward the sound. She rose from her chair with the slow grace of a predator and walked to her bed. Standing beside it, she stared down at the mattress for precisely 4 seconds before reaching out and pulling the blanket away in one swift motion. There it was. Thing. The severed hand flinched, fingers twitching in shock before immediately trying to scurry away. Wednesday acted before it could escape, snatching it up with a firm grip. Thing desperately clawed at the bed, its fingers scraping against the fabric in a futile attempt to hold on. Hello, Thing, she said, her voice devoid of warmth. The hand flailed, making one last attempt to flee, but Wednesday held it firmly, lifting it up so she could inspect it like an insect pinned to a board. Did you really think you could hide from my highly trained senses? She asked, tilting her head slightly. That would be a mistake. She carried the squirming hand to her desk, slamming it onto the wooden surface and pinning it down with her own hand. Surrender. Thing hesitated, then slowly curled into a defeated position, tapping the table twice to signal its submission. Satisfied, Wednesday lifted her hand. Let me guess. My mother and father sent you to spy on me, didn't they? Thing gave a guilty tap. Wednesday exhaled sharply. Poor thing. Forced to dance on the strings of my parents' puppet show. Thing tapped the desk weakly, as if resigning itself to its fate. But you have a choice, Wednesday continued, her voice dropping to a lower, more sinister tone. 2. In fact. She picked up Thing once more, this time lowering it toward a small locker built into her desk. Option 1, she said, prying the door open, I stuff you in here like a disobedient pet. Thing immediately panicked, clawing at the table, leaving behind desperate scratch marks as it tried to resist. Wednesday smirked. Try that. You and I both know how painful it is. She pulled Thing back onto the desk. Or, option 2, you pledge undying loyalty to me. Thing hesitated, then raised itself into a rigid, solemn salute. A satisfied smirk crossed Wednesday's lips. Good. Leaning in slightly, she whispered, I've had enough of this place. I'm escaping. And you, my dear Thing, will be instrumental in making that happen. She paused, her dark eyes gleaming with quiet excitement. The mission starts now. Meanwhile, in Rimuru's room. Rimuru Nightshade's room was a stark contrast to the rest of Nevermore Academy. It was a domain that reflected the essence of its occupant, gothic, eerie, and suffocatingly dark. The walls bled deep crimson, intricate black carvings resembling twisting vines and skeletal remains decorating their surface. A massive chandelier hung from the ceiling, its jagged glass shards dripping with an unsettling, blood-red glow. The furniture was sleek yet ominous, obsidian shelves lined with ancient tomes, black leather chairs with sharp, angular frames, and strange artifacts humming with unholy energy. At the center of the room, Rimuru lounged in his seat, legs crossed lazily, one elbow resting on the armrest while his head rested against his hand in deep thought. His crimson eyes gleamed under the flickering candlelight, amusement playing at the edges of his lips. The shadows behind him shifted. A figure materialized from the darkness, its presence unnatural. It bore an uncanny resemblance to Rimuru, same height, same build, but its skin was a ghostly white, and its hair cascaded like strands of silver mist. Unlike Rimuru, it lacked a face, its expression forever unreadable. Claw. Rimuru did not turn. What happened? His voice was smooth, laced with cold curiosity. Claw moved fluidly, lifting a hand and gesturing silently. Despite being incapable of speech, Rimuru understood every motion. A slow, predatory smile crept onto Rimuru's lips. She noticed him. Claw nodded, and she turned him to her side. How fascinating. Claw made another series of gestures, detailing what had occurred. Rimuru chuckled, his fangs glinting under the dim light. She's more perceptive than I thought. Good work, Claw. Claw bowed in acknowledgement, then, without another sound, melted back into the shadows. Rimuru exhaled through his nose, amusement dancing in his crimson eyes. This is turning out to be far more entertaining than I expected. With a languid stretch, he rose from his seat, making his way toward the large window. The glass reflected his figure in the dim light, his pale skin contrasted sharply against the dark interior of the room, his crimson eyes glowing like embers in the abyss. Outside, the moon hung heavy in the night sky, nearly full. Its silver light bathed the academy grounds in an eerie glow, the surrounding trees casting twisted shadows. Rimuru gazed at the moon for a long moment, then let out a low chuckle. This world, he murmured, voice dripping with dark amusement, is far more fun than I imagined. And with that, the night pressed on, secrets unfolding in the shadows, a game of cat and mouse beginning to take shape.